Good morning and good Woche. The title of today's today's lesson is Moral Dilemmas versus Halacha. We have sometimes, we find quite a number of occasions when people are in a dilemma and morally they think that the correct thing to do is one way, and the Halacha tells us that in actual fact HaKadosh Baruch Hu has told us and instructed us to behave in a different way. Now I'm going to, talk about money laws and the laws of the Dayanim, the Bezdin, the way they have to behave in certain moral dilemmas, conflicts which they might have. The first halacha is an interesting one which could happen to anybody who has lent money. Let's say Reuven has lent money to Shimon, he lent him 1,000 euros. And if he goes to Bezdin, he'll get the money. If he goes to Bezdin and asks Shimon for 1,000 euros, Shimon will pay. He'll say, yes, I owe it to you, and I'll pay it to you, no problem. But Reuven has other claims against Shimon, other monetary claims which he thinks that Shimon owes him, and in those claims, he knows that Shimon is not going to admit to them at all. He knows very well that Shimon will say in Bezdin, no, other ones nothing to do with it. No, I don't owe you at all. So, what does he do? He's got a way of engaging Shimon in Bezdin, which will force Shimon to make a shvua de'oraisa. There are cases when a person who comes to Bezdin and answers as a nitva means he's a defendant, and he answers certain statements which as far as he's concerned are the truth, the Torah tells us this person has to make an oath. He has to make a shvua, he has to take a shvua which is a halachic Torah obligation to swear. Right? There's two cases in halacha when a person has to make a shvua min ha-Torah. One is moide b'miktzas. Torah tells us as follows: if I ask you in Bezdin for 100 and you agree 50, you say 50 I owe you and 50 I don't. That means you agree partly. Modeh b'miktzas. You agree partly 50 I do owe you and 50 I don't owe you. The Torah says in this case we have great reason to suspect that the defendant is not telling the complete truth, and we say the Torah says you have to take an oath, you have to take out the Sefer Torah or a pair of tefillin and hold it in your hands, and the Bezdin warns him about how serious it is about making a false oath, and he has to make this oath in front of the Bezdin, in front of the person who's claiming get the money from him. And if he makes that oath that he only owes 50, we say, okay, you pay the 50 and you may go home. Once a person already is in a position in Bezdin that he is obligated to make a shvua min ha-Torah, then we know that the claimant, the person who's claiming the money, can say to the defendant as follows: since you're already making an oath about this money which I am claiming from you now, also make an oath about some other money which under normal circumstances I have no claim against you that you should make an oath about it. Because under normal circumstances, this you would say, I don't owe you anything, for the second claim. And for the second claim, if you say, I don't owe you anything, min ha-Torah, you do not have to take an oath. So, the scenario in Bezdin is that on claim number 1, I as the claimant have entitlement to force upon the defendant he should take an oath. On claim number 2, he would have no obligation to make an oath, but once, the Torah tells us, once the man is taking an oath about claim number 1, he also has to, now I can say to him, whilst you're making an oath about claim number 1, include in this my second claim that you don't owe me that either, and the third claim which I have against you, and the fourth one, and so on.
But he didn't declare the second claim yet.
In Bezdin, he will say in Bezdin, I want you to make a shvur about that as well, about this claim as well. That is called, the concept in the Gemara is called a Gilgul shvur. It's a rolling on effect of an obligation to make an oath.
But that's only if he has to swear in the first place.
Absolutely correct.
So if he agrees with the first one, he doesn't need to...
Right. You're 100% right. It only applies when in the first case he is already obliged to make a shvur because he's a moideh b'miktzah, he agrees to part of the first claim. And then he's already obliged to make a shvur. I can then use this roll-on effect and make him make an oath about the second claim. Gilgul shvur. Now, but if I am coming to Bezdin and I know that the person's, when I come and claim from him €1,000, he's going to be honest. He's going to say, you know, you're right. So, he's going to pay. But an oath, the Bezdin will say, you don't have to make an oath about it. If you agree, you pay him, bye-bye. So then I can't get him to make an oath about anything else, because he hasn't started making an oath. So what's my idea? I'll go to Bezdin and claim in Bezdin €2,000. I claim €2,000. And then this honest man will say, I only owe you 1,000, because the original claim, it's true, he only owes me 1,000. Okay, you only owe me 1,000. But now I've got you. Now you are moida b'mitzvahs. You agreed that you owe 1,000, which is half of the claim which I'm making in Bezdin. So now you have to take an oath. And once you're taking an oath, I'll then introduce the other claims which I have against him in order that he should make an oath about the others. You see, Jewish people are not really keen about taking oaths at all. Definitely not in Bezdin, and definitely not holding a Sefer Torah in your hand. It's very scary and it's possibly dangerous. So people would say, you know what? Instead of making oath, I'll pay, or I'll pay some of it to redeem the obligation. That's another aspect of redeeming an obligation to make a shvur.
On the ones that he will, on the other subjects he wants to add and to include the shvur, the one the defendant is not allowed to refuse that?
No, you can't refuse it.
Everything
You'll have to make an oath against all the others as well. Yeah.
Okay.
That's another question. Or if he refuses, he might not have to
He
pay.
might say, I want this and this, but this one I don't want. This is not clear.
But Bezdin will say to him, you're being very naughty, because in principle, the claimant, has a claim against you to make a shvur. The Torah, we learn out from the Torah that you have to take the oath about the second claim and the third claim and the fourth claim. So, since the claimant, in this case, wants to get the defendant to make an oath about the other cases, he's in a dilemma. Is he allowed to come to Bezdin and say, instead of saying the truth that you owe me 1,000, say you owe me 2,000, and then the claimant will be honest and say I only owe you 1,000, and then the claimant will use this automatic obligation of making a shvur on the defendant will make a shvur. He'll then have to make about other things. Are you allowed to do that or not? So I would say, look, I have claims against the defendant, which he's going to deny if I just talk about them. But if I get him to make an oath, he might be honest, he might not take it. A person will say, I don't owe you money. He's prepared to take the risk of being a ganef, to being a thief and not paying what he owes me. But he's not prepared to take the risk of making a false oath. So, and now I've got him in a corner. Are you allowed to do that or not? The Gemara in Shua says, no, you're not allowed to do that. It's true that the defendant, as far as you're concerned, is being a thief, and is not paying you the second claim and the third claim, he'll deny it completely. And I have a legal way of getting him to be obligated to make an oath. Nevertheless, the Gemara tells us in Masechet Shuas, Midvar Sheke Tirchov. The Torah tells us keep away from lies. And therefore, don't start telling lies in Bezdin by coming and say that the person owes me 2,000 in order to make this idea which you would like to do. That is one moral dilemma which a person might be in, and
Why do you call this a moral dilemma?
okay, maybe
It's worse. I mean,
Why is it worse? He says other money
Because
he will
he-
never get back. Otherwise, there's no way of getting back the other money which is really
but
owed.
that
He has a lot of money that he can never get back because he didn't sign for it or whatever. I don't know what the second, third of the scenarios are. He will never get his money back. And the guy knows it. He just doesn't care because he doesn't have the proof. It's the only way to actually get... if you make someone scared, you will send him a deurwaarder and you don't even have the power to do so. You just lie and this way he's scared and he's going to pay. For example, are you not allowed to do this? I don't know.
The thing is, why did he come to the Bezdin to start with? I mean, did he refuse to pay the initial money he owes?
maybe he didn't, but he wanted to get this whole idea going. So he went to Bezdin and said, this person owes me 2,000. And then he got the defendant to come and say, no, I only owe 1,000. And then once he said he owes 1,000, then he has to start making this oath. And then he said, okay, what about the rest of the things which you owe me? So the Torah says, "Mitvar shechatircha." You have to keep away from lies, especially in Bezdin. All cases you have to stop lying, but in Bezdin it's definitely a special issa to say a lie, and you're not allowed to do this. Mitzvah Hashem will try and understand the spiritual aspect of why that the Almighty decided that, but that's the first scenario which could be a person would have a dilemma. There's a second scenario which the Shach also brings here right at the beginning of the laws of claims and claimants. The Shach brings another case. The case is as follows. There's three partners, Reuben, Shimon, and Levi. Reuben, Shimon, and Levi lent Yehuda 1,000 euros. Without any paper, I don't have a document. They gave him a loan of 1,000 euros. And they've tried to get their money back from Yehuda. And he says, no, he's not paying. Difficult man, this Yehuda. He's not paying. So what can I do? I can go to Bezdin, all three of us, and we'll claim against Yehuda, you owe us 1,000 euros. And he'll say no. And he won't have to make an oath, a Torah oath. He won't have to make a Torah oath. He'll be allowed to go away without making a Torah oath. Oh, so then the three partners have got a very good idea. What will they do? There's Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven says to his three partners, look, this guy's a crook. You're going to get out of it. The Bezdin won't oblige him to make a Torah oath. We've got a very good way of getting our money. I'll go by myself to Bezdin. I'll say that you, Yehuda, owe me 1,000 euros. And I've got two kosher witnesses called Shimon and Levi, and I'll bring them as witnesses that Yehuda actually owes me the money. So whatever this Yehuda will say in Bezdin, he'll say, I don't owe you anything. I'll say, Shimon and Levi, two kosher witnesses, come in and give testimony that Yehuda actually owes the money. When Bezdin will hear two witnesses who give witness that Yehuda actually owes the money, then the Bezdin will say, Api shnei edim yakum davar. According to the testimony of two kosher witnesses, so it should be. And the Bezdin will say, Yehuda, you pay the money. Anything wrong with that? Are Shimon and Levi telling lies? They're not telling lies. They're saying that we know truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. We know for sure that Yehuda owes 1,000 euros to Reuven. They're acting in a different way. Instead of they themselves coming to Bezdin and being claimants, they'll come to Bezdin as witnesses.
That's not right.
Why not?
Because they're actually claimants, not the witnesses. I mean, like this, anybody can do a trick.
Are they telling the truth, the question is?
Well, they are telling the truth, but the way they're presenting it is not right. Because they are really claimants, not the...
And what will happen if they go to Bezdin? They won't get their money. So they're in a moral dilemma again. We've got a way of getting our money, the three partners, out from... We've got to get the money to get from Yehuda, who's being a shtickler crook, and is saying that he doesn't owe us, and all three of us are convinced... Without a shvur, they'll testify and testimony that Yehuda owes the money.
The same way they can go as three claimants And normally Besdin should accept them as three claimants, not one. If they are sharim,
Three.
yes.
Three people are not witnesses. If we come to Bezdin, the three of us, and say that he owes us money, so it's our word against his word. If there's no witnesses involved, he'll say he doesn't owe the money, Yehuda, and Bezdin will say, oh, in that case you don't have to pay. We cannot use the two claimants as witnesses. If they have put a different hat on, and they come in as witnesses, then they'll get the money.
Technically, the two witnesses who are actually claiming, they could assign their claim to one of them, and then they don't have to tell more than the truth, because if in the meantime two transfer their claim to one, then they say, okay.
So you're suggesting that instead of them actually staying claimants, they'll give a power of attorney, was it? Or actually transfer
their claim
they
to
give
one of
over.
them. They give over their claim to one of them.
They remove their own monetary rights.
Yes.
Completely and utterly from this claim.
Yes, and they give to one of them.
They give it to one of them, and then they'll come as kosher witnesses.
Yes.
And then they'll get nothing out of this deal.
Of course, no, it means that they can make another agreement so that they get, he will share with them afterwards.
Oh no, then in that case they're not kosher witnesses. Then they have a monetary interest in their witness. A witness who's giving witness and has a monetary interest is not a kosher witness.
Because anyway they have interest.
So it depends. If they would, they could, if they were very good with each other, and say they could decide that two of us will transfer the claim to one, let's say to Reuven, and we'll have no monetary interest whatsoever in this deal, because we will not share with the money in the future. And then, once we've removed ourselves from monetary claim, we are kosher witnesses, and that could be, you're correct that they're allowed to do that, because they don't have any monetary gain from the witness.
In the first case, you have also those witnesses. They have also a
interest.
Interest.
That's why they're not allowed to do it. That's why they're not allowed to do it. That's what the Gemara tells us. You cannot come as witnesses when you're really a claimant. It's true that this person, the defendant, is a crook, and is stealing and denying money which he owes us, which he owes me. Nevertheless, I'm not allowed to take the law into my hands and turn things around in order that he should do that. So that's another case where the moral dilemma and the claimants are in a position to get their money back, but they'll have to twist their words and not say the ultimate truth in order to get their money back. The Halacha tells us you're not allowed to do it. Good. What might be simple to you is not so simple to others. You're obviously an upstanding and honest man.
I'm not trying to say that.
I'm saying that.
Logically, that's how it is, because they are not the true witnesses.
Okay, so you have a Torah logic.
Even according to a scenario where they would completely give up their
Yeah.
if the defendant would say, but were you not standing there as a part of the deal and not as a witness?
So he'll say that
he'll
say the truth. He says, I was at the beginning, initially I was my money which was lent, but since then I've completely removed myself from having any interest in this case. I've completely given over to one of us, to one of our three partners who've now withdrawn from the partnership, and we are now kosher witnesses. The Gemara tells us that the people who live in the town, let's say in town we only have one shul, right? Let's say the great scenario of one town, one shul. Not like the desert island where two Jews had to build two shuls, one where they went and one where they didn't go to. Three. Okay. One shul, one town, and there's a Sefer Torah. And somebody comes into town and says, that Sefer Torah is mine. So he comes to Besdin, and he claims that the Sefer Torah is his. Now everybody in that town needs a Sefer Torah. Why? Because they have to hear Kriyas Torah Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos. So that the Gemara tells us these people cannot give witness about that Sefer Torah was presented by one of them. They can't give witness because each one of them has a positive gain. But if two of them give away their interest and they say that from now on Mondays and Thursdays we'll leave town, on Shabbos we'll leave town, or we'll go somewhere else to pray. So then we are not, we have no positive benefit from this effort, from the witness which we are going to give, the testimony which we are going to give. That's okay. So the same thing would be in our case that Mr. Mazima is absolutely 100% correct.
But do the Eidim have to present themselves as Eidim in the first place when the loan of 1,000 was made?
No, they can be at the beginning. You don't need Chilosa Bekashrus by Eidus Nujus Megia.
Before he was Bar Mitzvah, for example, that works. He can become later on the kosher aid.
Only for certain things. But money matters, there's no question. If when you saw the act, you did have interest in what was going on, if you can remove your interest from that, you become a kosher witness. There's a third scenario, where somebody calls me to court, and I'm the very honest gentleman, and he calls me to court that I owe him 1,000 euros, and I know the 100% truth, that I only owe him 500 euros. This guy, this claimant, is claiming extra money from me. He wants to extract from me 1,000 euros, and I really only owe him 500. So what do I have? What choice do I have in court in Besdin? I can either say the truth, I owe him 500. So the Besdin will say, oh, you owe him 500. He's claiming 1,000. So what's the law? Sure. I have to make it an oath. I agree to part of the claim. I am a moide b'mitzvahs. I'm agreeing to part of the claim. So 500 I have to pay, and the other 500 which I deny, I have to make an oath.
He doesn't have to pray for it. He doesn't have to.
If he wants to take money out from me, you're correct. But there is a case when the Torah says that if I agree to part of the claim, the Torah says there's something fishy going on here. Why is he agreeing to part of the claim? The Gemara in Bava
force him to make an oath.
No. The Torah says that if somebody
everybody can come to you. I can come to you Monday morning or tomorrow. Go. Okay, he owes me 3,000.
But if you reject everything,
where do you came from?
Right.
You know,
so if you say nothing,
a fake claim.
Right.
I can so who
if you ask for Halacha, then it's not such.
No, but this is part of it because he knows that he owes him only 500, but he claims 1,000.
Right.
So I mean,
so the Torah says
10,000. I mean, why nobody other?
He can claim 10,000 if he wants, and I'll still only agree to 500 because I owe him 500. And I have to be obligated.
Why the defender needs to? I mean, I'm defender. I owe you 1,000. You have to owe that I owe you 1,000.
So the Torah tells us.
If you owe, then I'll pay you.
The Torah tells us as follows.
You take the risk of making.
That's what the Torah says. You can argue it tomorrow.
Yeah, the Torah says that there's a reason for it. The logic is explained in the beginning of Baba Metzia, and I can't get involved in explaining it now. Half of it is already.
Like you said,
It's 50-50, but it's maybe fishy that he owes.
It may be. The Torah tells us in this.
He has to make an oath. He doesn't have to pay yet.
500 he pays, which he agrees on, and the other 500 he has to make an oath about. The Torah tells us why. The Gemara explains why. The Gemara explains why he has to make an oath. Why in this case the Torah tells us there's something fishy about the defendant. Okay. So I have a choice as defendant to say either I owe 500 and then I have to make this oath, which I don't want to do, or I can say in Bezin, you know what, I owe you nothing.
Yeah.
Bye bye. And the Bezin will say, okay, go home. And once we're outside, I'll give him the 500. So I clean myself from the responsibility to say make an oath. And on the other hand, I'll pay the other man. He won't have any loss.
Why should somebody not want to make an oath if that's what he's going to swear is the truth? Scaring of doing an oath on in the first case, he had other businesses.
Right. People are not interested because it's a very serious matter. The Gemara tells the stories that people made an oath and they actually thought that it was actually the truth, and they were acceptable to understand that they were correct in their oath, but it didn't work out to be the truth through no fault of their own, and they got into trouble for it. So it is dangerous. I'm not saying the Torah says that you make it, and you should make it, but first of all, people are very scared of making oaths. There's different cultures, I must tell you, and without meaning to degrade anybody, you'll find a certain culture who, anything they run to the mezuzah and put their hand on the mezuzah and they say, "V'chayai." They're prepared to swear about anything. That's the culture. But Torah from Jews will prefer to get out of making oaths because it's very serious. It's one of the serious differences. In case it's somehow not true, a person would like to get out of it, and is sometimes prepared to pay money in order to get out of it. So the Torah tells us, the Gemara tells us, Midvar Shechet Tirchok, you're in Bezdin. It's very unfortunate as far as you're concerned that this claimant is claiming 1,000 from you. You owe 500. You be honest. You agree that you owe 500, and you bear the consequences of being honest, and you'll have to make the oath of that oath. So those three cases are concerning claimants and defendants, and the Gemara tells us in all cases you can tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and bear the consequences. Sometimes you lose money, sometimes you have to make an oath, but that's the way the Torah has prescribed your behavior. Now there's another case which is concerning dayanim, judges. Most of you don't have this moral dilemma. But there's a very interesting moral dilemma which the Orach Chaim HaKodesh talks about. As a judge, in a murder case, in a murder trial, there's a murder trial going on. In a murder trial, in the days of the Beis HaMikdash, you needed 23 judges, 23 Dayanim, Sanhedrin, were there. Oh, it's 21, I'm not sure, but anyway, 23. So, now, there's a very interesting halacha which the Gemara tells us, that if in the murder trial, all the judges say their opinion, and they say that the man is guilty of murder, okay? Then what does the Gemara tells us in that case? If all 23 judges say unanimous decision, they go around the table or whatever it is, however they're sitting, and each one says chayev, then the Torah says the man is potter. The man is not guilty. Because it can't be, the Gemara says, that nobody could find any good thing to say about this man that he shouldn't be guilty. That's what the Gemara tells us. Okay, we'll accept it.
No, Gemara says he's not guilty.
We cannot give the man the death sentence. There's something wrong with the due process of law, and therefore, if kulam omrim chayev, if they all say he's chayev, then zakai, he gets away with it. Right. So we have a murder trial. We have Oscar in court, and nobody knows what I'm talking about, obviously. And you have 23 male judges, and you go around the table, and 22 have already given their opinion that the man is guilty. The 23rd judge, here's what's going on, and he knows that he's also guilty. He's also convinced that the man is guilty of murder. But he has a moral dilemma now. Because if he says guilty, which is what he believes, the man will get away free. Because the Halacha tells us all 23 of them say chayev, the man's found not guilty. So he knows that the man is guilty. Everybody says he's guilty, and I know that as well. So if I say what I feel, the man will get away. So I've got a choice. I'll say not guilty, and he'll be found guilty, because 22 have said guilty, 1 has said not guilty, and the man will get the death sentence, which I believe is true, and which everybody believes he's meant to get. Can I do that, or can I not do that?
No, midvar sheker techok.
So the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says you're not allowed to do that. Because he learns it out from a pasuk. It doesn't come from the Midrash Takatera, but he learns it out from a pasuk that you have to say your idea, what you believe and the truth, and then how the outcome is not your business. The outcome is already from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You cannot say something which you don't believe in order that justice should be served. Because here the judge, the Dayan, is in a position to see that justice is served, because he's convinced that the man is guilty just like everybody else is convinced. But he's not allowed to say something which is not the truth in order that the man should get punished.
What about if 23 say he's not guilty?
No problem with that. Then nothing will happen. 23 say not guilty, then he's not guilty. It does. If all say guilty,
he is not guilty.
We cannot kill him.
Yes. And if 23 says he's not guilty.
Yeah, but if you have something in the middle, then you go according to the majority rule.
But the dilemma exists because the 22, one by one, tell their opinion. If they would vote, blind vote, there would be no dilemma. Because then
Right, but they have to say, says the Commission says that each one has to be asked what their opinion is.
From small to big. You know?
They start at the
So
end.
the most important one, he goes last.
Okay, you have two truths here, I think.
Sorry?
You have two truths here. One is that this judge, yes, he believes that this man has killed and he's guilty. And the other truth is that this man really deserves death penalty. So
That's as far as the people, as the judges are concerned.
So that is two truths.
Right, but he has to say his honest opinion. That's what the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says. He cannot change his opinion in order that the truth of guilty should come up, because that's not his business. He's playing with the law. He's saying something which is not true. It's not his opinion. His opinion is that. Sorry?
A judge is much less than a private person. He's supposed to represent truth. So if he lies here, then he finishes his function as a judge.
Well, he wants the question.
Of the murderer for himself.
Well, that's the question, because
he judge and say a lie
because he knows, as far as he's concerned, this man is guilty.
That's the case, but he has a position as a judge. If he now lies, then his opposition is not going to.
The emes is that he does not accept. What he's saying is he doesn't accept that the Torah in such a case patters.
Well, he does accept it. He knows exactly what's going to happen, and he wants to
doesn't
play around in order
to
to get what he sees as doing justice.
No, but that means what he sees as doing justice is not what the Torah says.
Okay.
The Torah says if there's 23 say chayiv, then it's potter.
That's correct.
And that in itself is something he feels difficult about.
Okay. But I'm saying his dilemma is that he feels the man is chayiv.
Doesn't it mean the whole thing why it's set in place that if everyone says chayiv, we don't give him, because it shows that the Bezdin has not been doing their work correctly.
That's
so
what we explained.
So we'll start messing up even more.
So he says, as far as I'm concerned, maybe others are not doing that case, but I'm convinced he is a murderer. So why can't I save my conviction and get him? In order to get him, why can't I change my? Okay, that's what the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says. Now we have another scenario, which is exactly the opposite, where really the man, as far as the last judge is concerned, the man is not guilty. Now all the other Dayanim before him have said guilty, chayev, and we come to the last man. He is convinced that the defendant, the one in the dock, is not guilty. He knows that if he says his true opinion, not guilty, the man will get killed, because he's the last one in the line, and everybody else has said chayev, and he's going to say his honest opinion is potter, and the man's going to get killed. But he's convinced that the man is not guilty. So is he allowed to say also, he'll say, oh, you know what, I'll say chayev, and then everybody, all the judges have said guilty, And he won't get killed, which is my honest opinion of what's meant to happen to this man.
Same story again.
Same story.
No, it's even worse. It's much worse. Because if he tells what he thinks, the result is that the person will be killed.
Yes, right. So
it's worse. I mean, if you release somebody for free, okay, you have a free murderer. We have some in our society. But if you kill somebody who's not guilty, then it's worse.
okay, that's his dilemma.
Yeah, of course. So it's worse than the first case.
Okay, so it's worse than the first case. But nevertheless, the Racham HaKodesh says clearly that since the Torah says you have to say exactly the way you feel in Bezdin, he learns it from a pasuk, you have to say the way you feel. You can't play around and manipulate the Torah law because of your feelings. You feel, according to the evidence in front of you, this man is not guilty, you have to say what you feel. The outcome is not your business anymore.
Simon doesn't apply here at all.
Not at all. In this case, you have to be honest. That's what the Torah tells us.
Couldn't he say they're not guilty, so then they'll decide, okay, but then just before they'll say, oh no, יש לי עוד זכות להגיד עליו, and then they reopen the case.
I don't
Then
exactly
that is moral obligation. The moment when someone has been condemned to death, and then even the moment someone after the condemnation, but before he's been put to death, anybody, including one of the Dayanim, can say, יש לי עוד זכות ללמד עליו, I still have something to say for him. Then you reopen the whole
Okay,
case.
so you reopen the case and what will happen?
And then you put another judge.
No, one second, we haven't changed judges yet.
No, you haven't checked, but then he will have done his moral obligation to do everything in his power, and then the chances are someone.
If he has something new to say, you might as well say it right at the beginning, and they'll judge it all the way through. Now,
you will have a sewage that's guilt. It's not.
How often do you want to do this?
Yeah, as much as he can do it 3-4 times.
Are you allowed to change judge? Because another one will probably
well,
say
now
guilty.
we'll come to this, the next case, which the last one about the judges is as follows. You have a case of three dayanim, 3 judges in court, and they're hearing a monetary case. With a monetary case, 3 judges is enough. And the halacha tells us that, again, if whatever the majority says, that's what goes. So what happens here is that they discuss, the 3 judges, after hearing all the evidence, hearing the claims and the defense, they have their discussion and they decide, and after having decided that one of the judges sees, or at least before deciding, he sees that his 2 other mates, his other people on the bench, are getting it all wrong. Because in money matters there's a lot of halacha. It's not only the claims you have to discuss it and work it out, and it can take many hours to bring proofs to what one judge is saying. This Dayan is convinced that the other 2 have got it all wrong. They're making a mistake in halacha. Or even worse than that, he's convinced that these 2 other judges have been bribed. They're not being honest. So, if he says his opinion, he won't make any impact on the outcome, because 2 say one thing, the 3rd judge says something else. We go according to the Rav, according to the majority opinion. But he has one chance to turn it around, because the halacha says that if a judge, a dayan, says, I don't know, Eini Yodeya, then the halacha says you have to add on 2 more judges to make a panel of 5 and reopen the case. And the 5 judges will now judge this case. So the dayan, instead of saying his opinion, he says Eini Yodeya, because he's convinced that the other people who are with him, either they don't know what they're talking about, they're making a mistake, or maybe they have taken bribes. So therefore, the outcome is not going to be a true outcome. Is the 3rd man who has an opinion allowed to say, I don't know, in order that we should add another 2 judges? And in that case, he hopes that with 5 judges in the panel, the other 3, at least 3 of them will come out with an honest opinion. Is he allowed to say that? According to what we've learned until now, you're not allowed to do that. Because he's not allowed to say, he has an opinion. To say Ein Yudei means I don't have an opinion. That's against the law.
He has an opinion of the case, but Ein Yudei also the judges also. He doesn't know if the
No, that's not true. Any day means I don't know. If the halacha, I don't know the halacha. So there again, it's a discussion, and it's that everybody, most people agree, most Rabbanim Poskim say that a judge is not allowed to say I don't know in order to add on more judges to bring the case, as far as he's concerned, to a true outcome. You're not allowed to manipulate in order. You have an opinion, you have to say it. If you don't know, then you're allowed to say you don't know. But to have an opinion formed and to change it around in order to manipulate the Torah system, you're not allowed to do that.
Okay, if he doesn't, if let's not think that he said that they're making a mistake in halacha, because they might think the same thing about him. But if he believes they're being corrupted, is there a way that he can enforce or to stop this thing? Say this, where this.
You might be able to say withdraw from the case, but it's not simple. It's not a simple way of doing it. You can withdraw if you want and say, I'm not continuing. Sorry.
Can he withdraw?
I think he can withdraw. He's not allowed to say the lie that any of them.
He knows it's corrupt.
Okay, there's opinions about that, but I think the bottom line is that the person is not allowed to manipulate the system in order to get the truth out as far as he's concerned.
What about if he withdraws, really?
If he withdraws, it's possible that they will be put in a position of they can't give out a judgment if one withdraws. But that's also not so clear. It could be that if one judge says he's just withdrawing from the case, the other two will give out their ruling according to the way they understood it. In other words, is he forced to sign? Does he have to sign? He'll say, I'm not interested in signing this case, because as far as I'm concerned, it's not true. Can they give out the judgment? They'll give out the judgment, and the third time will not sign. Or maybe he actually is obliged to sign. He cannot withdraw, because that's the way the Torah says. You took on a case, and you have an opinion. You don't want to sign this is the halacha, because as far as you're concerned, it's not the halacha. The Torah says that you go according to the majority, and the majority have said that this is the law. You are obliged to behave yourself and comply. Some other time we will explain a little bit why you're not allowed to do so.
The end result is that one has always to judge according to what one thinks is the truth, right, and not working backwards from I want this result.
Right, absolutely.
And
therefore I'm going to manipulate the system.
Yeah.
That you're not allowed to do.
Although in itself I think that the end result is what the truth is. But I mean,
what
should be done?
You have to behave as a judge, say your honest opinion, and the outcome is really not your business.
Yes. Yeah.
In the case of the 22 saying guilty, and he thinks he's not guilty,
right,
he can just withdraw, and another one will probably say he's guilty, and then
he can't withdraw. I don't think he can withdraw. It's not so simple in the Sanhedrin just to say withdraw. I don't think he can. He's forced to say an opinion. I don't know.
If he really knows corruption, he has to play along and just say his thing, and he knows that this.
I'll tell you a story which I didn't hear from. There was a Rav in town who once made a statement at a breakfast, which wasn't a power breakfast, but it turned out to be a very powerful statement. He said, what should I do? My two judges are taking bribes, and I don't know how to get out of it. Should I say, Einu Yudea, and we'll have another two Rabbanim come in and add it? He once actually said this at the breakfast. If it's true, I don't know, I wasn't actually present at the breakfast, but he had this moral dilemma, and he spoke about it in public, which is also something which is strange. I don't remember the outcome of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.